Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Everyone wants to be stronger, not just physically, but in every part of life. But between confusing workout advice, complicated equipment, and trying to figure out nutrition, where does anyone even start? Well, to get stronger mentally and physically, go to Anytime Fitness. You'll get a personalized training, nutrition, and recovery plan, all customized to your body, your strength level, and your goals. You'll get expert coaching to optimize your results, anytime, anywhere, in the gym, and on the Anytime Fitness app. And you'll get anytime access to 5,500 gyms worldwide, all with the right equipment to level up your strength gains and your life. So get started at AnytimeFitness.com. That's AnytimeFitness.com.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride! Woo!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt.
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Yes, sir. And a Mr. Toby Tom play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Sean Salisbury in 1 hour. We'll also head to Gainesville about 90 minutes from right now as we continue to follow the Lane Kiffin saga. Of course, a day ago, Lane's ex-wife Layla was in Baton Rouge along with, her sister-in-law, Angela Kiffin. Lane's brother, Chris, who's on staff there at Ole Miss. Chris's wife, Angela, was here with Layla, and 2 of Angela's children were in town as well, so it was the 4 of them. Lane was not in Baton Rouge a day ago, but one day after that saga, Lane was a guest on the McAfee show, denied the conversation of an ultimatum, opened the show with that today, kind of falls in line with what I was told last night. I do think this is just sort of a conversation of semantics where I think the word ultimatum was probably too strong that Stuart Mandel used in that report. I also don't believe that there's this hard and fast date of next Friday, the 28th. What I do think is best I could sort of gather here is I think for Ole Miss, a perfect world would be Lane stays, they play the Egg Bowl, and they announce after the Egg Bowl that he's staying. I think they're probably trying to figure out a way that if he is leaving, they can get through the week of the Egg Bowl, presumably win that game, punch their ticket to the playoff, and then they can announce Lane is leaving and then would not coach the team in the playoff, and they would have an interim situation. As I understand it, if they do get to an interim situation there in Oxford, Joe Judge, while I don't think this decision has been made, I think Joe Judge, who was formerly on staff at Alabama and was the head coach of the New York Giants. Joe Judge would be very likely the interim head coach for Ole Miss if Lane does in fact leave and he's not allowed to coach the playoff. So just a few of the updates as this Lane Kiffin's saga continues to carry on. We have a lot of content as well for free up at LouisianaSports.net if you want to go check it out. It's everything always free over at LouisianaSports.net. Hunt Palmer's got a column up about how the impact of Lane Kiffin's decision on the conference. Chris Marler has a column up about why LSU makes the most sense. All the Kiffin content is there for you. It's for free at LouisianaSports.net. Another piece about how Kiffin's move could reshape the entire SEC. If you want to go check it out, it's all there for you for free at LouisianaSports.net. While we continue to watch what may unfold with Lane Kiffin in Baton Rouge, the other thing that has been pushed to the background but is still very much present is Brian Kelly's contract and buyout as LSU continues to pay its former coach. And does very much, again, illustrate how the news cycle can turn very quickly. Whereas all of the Brian Kelly contract talk dominated headlines a week ago, prior to that, it was Brian Kelly being fired, Scott Woodward, the governor, all of that stuff. I mean, you just see how very quickly the news cycle spins and turns, and we move on to different things. But I want to illustrate why it benefits both sides potentially to reach a settlement agreement of this contract. Did you see what happened with James Franklin? So James Franklin was fired by Penn State, and he was owed $49 million. That was the buyout remaining on his deal. $49 million. Well, Franklin had a mitigation clause in his contract, and so now he's accepted the job at Penn State. And so, he's accepted the job at Virginia Tech, So now he has settled his buyout with Penn State for $9 million. So Franklin is going to get $9 million, and we don't know, by the way, yet the terms of Franklin's contract at Virginia Tech. We don't know, at least that I'm not seeing reported yet, what the length and terms of this contract are. If when I see it, again, it's just not in this piece. Someone may have it somewhere. I haven't seen it yet. Supposed to have a press conference Wednesday morning to announce Franklin. But all that to say, Franklin's going to get basically a $9 million bonus from Penn State on top of the contract he's going to get from Virginia Tech and the opportunity to coach again. So from Penn State's standpoint, they're looking at this as, they just had $40 million removed from their liability to James Franklin because he got hired by Virginia Tech. Awesome for Penn State. LSU would love the same reality. You'd love for Brian Kelly to get hired somewhere, settle the $54 million buyout so you don't owe $54 million. You could agree to a lesser number. But I gave you this example last week. When Les Miles got fired and LSU was buying out Les Miles, they were paying him for 2 years until he wanted to go coach Kansas. And then they had to settle the balance of the contract so he could go coach again. And he was owed still $6 million on his buyout at the time that he took the Kansas job, and they settled for $1.6. So LSU was able to shave $4.5 million off of the buyout they owed Les Miles because he wanted to go coach again. Now, in a perfect world, if you're LSU, Brian Kelly gets a job now. This cycle is coaching again, and you get relief from that $54 million buyout from the mitigation of whatever his new deal is. And so you could say, well, great, LSU should just wait till Brian Kelly gets a job, and maybe you could have a situation like this with Penn State. Yeah, you could. Or maybe it's the Ed Ogeron situation, where Ed hasn't coached since you fired him, and you paid him the full amount of his contract that was due him. And that could be what happens with Brian Kelly if he doesn't get another job. So either way, the point of a buyout is to eliminate risk on both sides. If Brian Kelly gets a job that would, in theory, pay him the amount of the contract remaining, the buyout that he has at LSU, it would effectively wipe out his buyout. So him accepting a lesser dollar amount gives him basically a bonus, is how you could look at it. The flip side of it is if you're LSU, Brian Kelly could get a job and you could end up paying him less, or he could sit on the sideline for the next 6 years. You could pay him the full $54 million. It's all about limiting risk and liability here, which is why it's a smart thing to agree to a settlement of some sort. Now, you could risk it, and it could work out. It could work out like it happened with Penn State here, because James Franklin eagerly wanted to coach again. Or it could be like what happened with Ed Ogeron, and you end up paying him the entirety of the buyout. That could be what happens with LSU and Brian Kelly. They'd be wise to settle if they could get to that point. All right, it's after further review. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020 is the phone number. 924-2020. You want to see 2020. You want to ditch the contacts and glasses forever. You can do it. Dr. Blake Williamson makes that a reality for people in our communities every single day. Call 924-2020 for that free consultation, 924-2020. LASIK, like I had. Maybe you had LASIK years ago. Your eye continues to age. Maybe you've got some different problems that propped up. Maybe PRK is an option. That's what Jake Hester had. Maybe you're doing the thing where you need your flashlight to read the menu. You're holding your phone or paper far away, squinting your face. Maybe the custom lens replacement is what you need. Point is, no matter your age or your refractive issue, if you want to see 2020, the Williamson Eye Center can help with a refractive issue for you. 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. That's Williamson, EYE.com. So Franklin settling his buyout is one piece of the coaching carousel spinning today. The other is that now Eli Drinkwitz has responded to the reported interest, or rumored, I should say, interest of him in other jobs. We've let you hear from a lot of coaches throughout this cycle. Kenny Dillingham, John Sumrall, Brent Key, Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning. You'll hear from Eli Drinkwitz when we come back on what he had to say about rumored interest in openings, including potentially LSU. We'll get to that as we continue here on AFR.
AFR.
A big hat tip to Derek Duplessis over at Duplessis Builders. I love endorsing great businesses that deliver a great product and treat people right. But I also love endorsing great people, and Derek Duplessis is great people. And you can see it so much through their charitable works. Not just, not just the NIL deals that they've done, which is amazing and wonderful in ways that they support the Tigers, but their Dream Pool sweepstakes, teaming up with Dreams Come True of Louisiana. What they're doing with us, with Parish, with the 12 Days of Christmas, to bless a dozen families in our community this Christmas season. I want to do business with good people. Great businesses, but also great people. And that's Derek Duplessis and Duplessis Builders. If you're thinking about putting in a pool this Christmas, they'll build you a beautiful pool. They'll give you a 10-year workmanship warranty. They can design any custom pool you want, but you're also going to be dealing with great people. DuplessisBuilders.net.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Climb up in the loft, sit and talk with the radio on. She says she's got a dream, and I ask what it is. She wants a little farm and a yard full of kids. And
we will talk a little bit about one big name that could very well be jumping into the transfer portal in a smidge. We've kept a close eye on all of the coaches that have been reported to be targets in this cycle, and when they're asked about it, what they say. And you well know by now there are three different categories of coaches' responses. There's the denial, the non-denial, and then the non-denial denial. And we played a lot of them for you. For example, Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State. This was his response when asked about other jobs.
I'm trying to win as many games as I can here. That is my number one focus, is our players, our football team, everything about us. That's simple. I am so singularly focused on us to win football games, to become a better football team, this season. That's my singular focus.
Got it. So, Muse, that we would classify that as a what?
Yeah, that was a non-denial denial.
Yes, that was a non-denial denial. In fact, correct. Give something. Didn't answer the question. He did not deny it by not answering the question. A non-denial denial. John Summerall, Tulane, asked the same thing.
You got a job to do. You got to ask that question. I got a job to do. It's to coach the Tulane football team. I've dealt with it every year as a head coach. I understand it comes with the territory. I get those questions because we're having success. That's about our players. And the coaching carousel to me is not even a thought because we're in the mid-season phase. So whatever somebody else wants to do, another program wants to do, what people want to speculate, they're free to do that. UTSA has my 100% focus. Our team playing the best it can has my 100% focus.
How'd that UTSA game go?
It didn't go very well. That was ugly.
48-26. UTSA beat Tulane, by the way, that week. By the way, Muse, what we...
Yeah, it was another non-denial denial.
You got it. Very good. Brent Key, Georgia Tech. Disappointing loss a couple weeks ago, but they're trucking along over there in the ATL. What did Brent Key say?
Since I came back here, since I was named the head coach here, Kelly, outside of the time with my family, every waking second of my life is going towards building this program to get to the point that it is right now. So that in turn we can continue 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, continue to elevate this place, right? To be in that conversation, not to be in there for 2 or 3 weeks, but to be a consistent team. Not when you lose one game, people say, oh, the storybook's over. Nah, it's just beginning. I could go on and on. I could say yes, no, all that crap. Slice me open and see what colors I bleed.
I mean, yes or no would actually be an answer to the question, which I don't think he answered. Muse?
Yeah, no, he did non-denial denial.
Correct. Yeah. Another non-denial. To slice me open, see what I bleed. Yeah, but are you leaving? Or are you staying? Okay. We've been through Lane Kiffin's responses plenty. The counter answer, of course, is what Dan Lanning told Rich Eisen when he said, are you interested in other jobs? And Dan Lanning said,
yeah, I'm not leaving Oregon.
Yeah, that's a Muse.
That's denial.
That's a denial. Yes, thank you. That's a denial. Okay. And then, of course, we don't have an example of a non-denial, but a non-denial is when you say that you are open to other jobs. That's the rarest of the answers. The non-denial denial is the most common. The denial is rare, but it happens. You heard it there with Dan Lanning. The non-denial is the one that's odd. Like I'm interested. Yeah, call my agent. You just don't call my agent. Yeah, you don't hear that much.
No.
Enter Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach at Missouri, who took his turn when he was asked about job openings and his rumored or reported interest in them.
You know, I'm not going to comment on message board chatters, tweets, sources. You know, I've maintained with you and our team that my complete focus is on the task at hand. You know, last week, people were tired of me because I couldn't win the big game. People had me meeting with my team and telling them that I was going to another school, none of which were true. You know, all of this stuff is just a distraction. I would like to remind everybody, including our fans, we absolutely love Mizzou. We love what we're building. We've been to 6 straight bowl games. We've got the sellout streak going. Our administration has been nothing but phenomenal to me. You know, since I've been here, I've signed multiple extensions. In fact, I signed one this past summer. So my focus is going to remain on our team and our current situation.
Muse?
Non-denial denial.
Nailed it. Tell you what, this guy's on fire. You know, the interesting thing, though, Muse, about how on fire you are is how many people tried to attempt this on Twitter and they get it wrong. You know, they'll at you and me, and they don't get it's It's not a hard thing here, I don't think, anyway.
They like the game a lot that we do with this, but they just haven't quite picked it up yet.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think the question I've been asked the most is, okay, Lane's top target, get that. If they miss on Lane, then what? And that has been something nobody wants to answer. And I understand why. Loose lips sink ships. And remember what happened 4 years ago. All the conversation was about Lincoln Riley. And ultimately what it came down to was Lincoln Riley had interest from LSU and Southern Cal. He ultimately chose Southern Cal. And within 24 hours of that announcement, Brian Kelly's announced at LSU. LSU had their ducks in a row. They knew if it was Riley, Kelly, whoever else might have been in there. I don't know what other names might have been on the list, but the whole time you're talking to agents, you're gauging interest, you're negotiating terms before you have a formal, okay, we're offering you this job, will you accept? And then you're on to the next, whatever the case may be. However, those things are prioritized. And so LSU was able to very quickly pivot to Kelly, or maybe Kelly was their number one all along. I don't know. But I mean, I'm sure they were in conversations and negotiations the whole time. It should be obvious to everyone at this point that Lane Kiffin is LSU's number one target. I'll repeat again today what I've said over and over again. I do not know if Lane Kiffin is going to take the LSU job. He has three really good options. He can stay at Ole Miss and become the highest paid coach in college football and continue to build at a place where he's done an exceptional job. He could take the Florida job, which has lots of resources and great tradition. He could take the LSU job, which would make him the highest paid coach in the country, give him all the resources too. He's got three great options. I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not Lane Kiffin. I don't stay in his house. He don't talk to me. I don't know. I ask people associated with Ole Miss, people associated with LSU, people associated with Florida. Media members, boosters, collective people, administrators, all over the place. Like, if you saw my call log, you'd be like, damn, yeah, I'm trying to find answers. It's the one thing I don't want to do is be blindsided. So I think I could ask 15 different people and probably get 5 people that say LSU, 5 people that say Florida, 5 people that say Ole Miss. So I don't know. I'm telling you candidly, I don't know what he's going to decide to do. I think, given what he's done to this point, it illustrates he don't want to stay at Ole Miss, because if he did, he would have already signed his extension, like Mike Elko did, like Kurt Cignetti did, like Matt Rule did. Lane hadn't done that. He's already got a deal on the table making him the highest paid coach in the country. He ain't signed it. It tells you he wants to leave. And based on the intel over the last 24 hours, certainly that I've got, it feels like LSU has pulled ahead of Florida. I do not think that was the case 5 days ago, or maybe even 48 hours ago. I do think that's the case now, that LSU has surpassed Florida. If he does end up leaving Ole Miss. But if Lane Kiffin chooses Florida or chooses to stay at Ole Miss, where does LSU go next? The one name that I don't think this would surprise anybody, but the one name that I have had people associated with LSU search tell me is on the list is Eli Drinkwitz. That doesn't mean Drink would leave Missouri for LSU. I think he would, for whatever it's worth. It doesn't mean I would like it. I would not, for what it's worth. He's had a lot of success there. I don't love what you would have to pay him to get him here. If Eli Drinkwitz could come at a more reasonable dollar amount, I'd probably be more in line with that. But he's making $9 million a year at Missouri, which means you'd have to go north of $10, $11 million. And I just am not. After the conversation we just had over the last 2 weeks about Brian Kelly's contract and buying out Brian Kelly and the way things are structured and buyouts and all that stuff, I can't get behind paying Drinkwitz $10, $11 million a year. But LSU may do that. They may. They don't ask my opinion, by the way. I think John Sumrall would be a target that I've had. I've had folks express that there would be interest there. I also think there are people who LSU would ask to write really big checks who would not be fired up about hiring the Tulane coach. I'll repeat again. I think that's stupid. I think that is short-sighted. I think John Sumrall would crush at LSU. Would love this hire if they made it. But it sure seems like Sumrall is target number 1 for Auburn. And Ole Miss could potentially jump in the Summerall sweepstakes if Lane Kiffin is leaving. And maybe, I'll tell you, I have not heard as much lately, as much support for Joe Brady and Kelvin Shepherd as there was early. Some of that interest seems to have waned. But the one that seems to have maybe be picking up steam is Blake Baker. I would certainly not say that Blake Baker is number 1 on the list. That's Lane Kiffin. I'm not even sure he's number 2. But if you're looking at the next tier, I think Kenny Dillingham is on that list from Arizona State. Drinkwitz, Summerall, Blake Baker. I think that's probably your next tier. I can't say with absolute certainty that's the case. We've heard throughout this process anything you can imagine. Brent Key and Josh Heupel and Jeff Brom, and people throw out names. But if I was putting together my exacta box, it would probably look something like that. And you understand, LSU's in a really good position with a lot of resources to attract a really good coach. And I do think we're going to have some finality on this sooner than later. All right, what about Rouse's? Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Oh, my goodness. I saw this yesterday on Rouse's Facebook. I'm so fired up for this. Been telling, I have to update my talking points. Because Rouse's, I tell you, 70 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach, Alabama, and points in between. I don't know if you saw this, but Rouse's made the announcement a day ago that they are acquiring 10 grocery locations in Louisiana and Mississippi from Southeastern Grocers, which is the parent company Winn-Dixie. So with these additions now, Rouse's will have 76 stores across the Gulf Coast. So these great stores have served their neighborhoods for many years, and Rouse's is proud to welcome them, their team members, their customers into the Rouse's Markets family. That changeover will take place in early 2026. You get more info at any of the Rouse's Facebook pages or the Rouse Facebook page or the website, rouses.com. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. I'll catch up on a break. When we come back, I do want to talk a little bit here about the key injuries with the Atlanta Falcons, as Raheem Morris did give an update on their quarterback situation, and obviously with Drake London when he met with reporters Monday evening. So we'll get to that here in just a smidge. Also, Sean Salisbury in 30 minutes from right now. I want Sean's take on what's going to happen there with Saints Falcons, and then possibility of Lane Kiffin picking LSU, what LSU does at quarterback this weekend, Nussmeier's injury, Michael Van Buren's first start, all that stuff. We'll get to it as we roll along. Glad you're here on AFR.
After Further Review.
GLO. GlowResources.com, GlowResources.com. They are complete employer solutions at Glow Resources. We're moving here closer to 2026. If in 2026 you're thinking about expanding your staff and you need help finding the right people, Glow Resources can help. Ask for Casey if you're calling over there at Glow Resources asking about the professional placement division. They specialize in any type of office administrative job. Executive level assistants, assistant controllers, plant managers, scheduling assistants, any type of office job in any type of business, accounting, HR, marketing, managerial, and supervisor roles, and they can move quickly based on your timeline. See, at Glow Resources, they'll go perform a deep dive into the market analysis, and they'll give you up-to-date marketing data based on their findings. It doesn't matter if it's hard to fill roles, owner, VP, ops managers, call Glow Resources. GLO, glowresources.com.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She's always staring at me while I'm chugging along.
Yeah, they had a big-time win versus Carolina, when it's a young team with a young coach, and they've gotten better throughout the course of the year, and it'll be, one of our bigger rivals, and we got to go down there and get a win. That's
Raheem Morris talking about coming to New Orleans this weekend, and Falcons will do it shorthanded. On Sunday, Michael Penix suffered an injury. Drake London also injured. Here was the Monday update on Michael Penix, whose season is over.
Obviously, the big injury news that's come out today, Mike will go to IR. Don't have any further information on some of those type of things, but just putting out that he'll go to IR, so that'll be at least a 4-week deal. If anything comes up after that, obviously got some second opinions. There'll be a bunch of different things that has to go on over the next couple of course of the days and figure out what else that is. And
so Michael Penix with the knee injury goes to IR. Drake London, by the way, here was the update on the receiver.
Drake, another big one from yesterday. He'll be probably week to week, and how that thing looked. So we'll kind of figure that out. It's kind of the presence we kind of use when we don't know. But we'll see. You never know. Drake can come back tomorrow and feel a lot better, but we'll get a feel for how that goes, and he'll be a week-to-week guy.
The Falcons have lost 5 straight. They're really scuffling. They're one of those teams right now at 3-7 that's kind of jockeying with New Orleans, Miami, Cleveland, Tennessee, the Jets for the worst record in the NFL. It would have really been nice to see the Falcons actually beat Carolina this past week just for that sake. But the Penix part of this is obviously notable because look, he's been their starter there in Atlanta. And so you're replacing a guy that's thrown for nearly 2,000 yards this year, a young player, but their starting quarterback. And also Drake London, who is by a wide margin their leading receiver. So Drake London on the season for Atlanta has 60 receptions on 94 targets. For context, the next closest targets is Kyle Pitts, their tight end, with 62. So he's got 30. Drake London has 32 more targets than the next closest pass catcher. And he's got 810 receiving yards, where Bijan Robinson is next at 506. So again, receiver, next closest on targets is your tight end, and second closest on receiving yards is your running back. So he is, by a mile, far and away, their best wide receiver. The next most productive wide receiver is Darnell Mooney with 16 catches for 224 yards. Like, it's Drake London. Massive drop-off when it comes to your receivers, which, for the Saints, who have been really bad at cornerback, have a little bit of a bonus here with Drake London not being there. Not that you ever want to cheer for anyone to get injured, and I'm certainly not cheering for that. It's just something that has to be discussed here at how this alters Atlanta. As a matter of fact, Morris was asked if the offense would look any different with Kirk Cousins under center as opposed to Michael Penix.
It's fair to say it'll look different. Obviously with Kurt and Mike, different playing styles definitely look a little bit different. What Kurt can do really well, that's what we'll try to do. Things that he does well, the thing that he did well for us when he was starting. Some of the things he's done in his past, we'll be able to do some of those things. We'll definitely bounce back and definitely get some, have an ability to sit down and talk with him throughout the course of the week. But definitely fair to say that it looked different than what it looked with Mike. You named a lot of the differences, left-sided offense, right-sided offense, some of those different things.
Of course, being that Cousins is a right-handed passer and Penix is a left-handed passer, that's what he's alluding to there. So it does change your protections, your backside protections, all that sort of stuff. But you also likely are going to lean more on Bijan Robinson. Atlanta is 13th in the NFL in rushing yards at 119 rush yards per game. So naturally, you would look at New Orleans, which at times this year really struggled defensively to stop the run, as being a team that they would line up and try to run the ball against the Saints. But it's also fair to mention, the last time we saw the Saints, they were on the road in Carolina, and Rico Dowdle, although he had the quad injury that week, played, and the Saints stuffed Rico Dowdle. I mean, they made it a commitment to limiting the run and making Bryce Young beat him throw the football, and he was unable to do that. And I know Bryce Young has struggled, but this past week, Young went out there and threw for over 400 yards, setting a Carolina franchise record. So my guess is the Saints will try the same thing this week. They'll load the box. They'll commit to stopping Bijan Robinson. They'll make Kirk Cousins try to beat them throwing the football without Drake London. The game plan's pretty simple. Can they go execute it? But most eyes, of course, for New Orleans this week will not be on the defense. It'll be on Tyler Shuck making his third start, his first home start, by the way. So we'll see if the Saints can get out there and get a win on Sunday with the Falcons coming in A Sunday afternoon game, the late afternoon game, the 3:25 kickoff on Fox. And by the way, Drew Brees is expected to be on the call for that game in the Dome. So that would be interesting. One other little tidbit there as it'll play out Sunday in the Dome. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Championship Health Partner of LSU Athletics, OLOLRMC.com/LSU, OLOLRMC.com/LSU, Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together we roar, and as the LSU Tigers are getting onto the hardwood, both the men and the women, really excited to be telling you much more about Our Lady of the Lake and their NIL deals with LSU basketball athletes, Flau'jae Johnson, Michaela Williams, Robert Miller, DJ Thomas. You're going to see us talk so much more in these coming days and weeks about the amazing stories, the effort, the work ethic that those young people have put into their careers to get to this point, and how they trust Our Lady of the Lake with their health, with their training, to be their best on the hardwood. Doesn't matter if you're a world-class athlete at LSU or you're an everyday champion. Our Lady of the Lake is continuing to expand healthcare in our area. OLOLRMC.com/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. One other quick note as we continue talking about the whole Kiffin saga. Feinbaum was on SportsCenter. And again, this is the day that Layla Kiffin and Angela Kiffin, Chris's wife, were in Baton Rouge on Monday. Feinbaum, unmoved apparently by that visit, said he still thinks that Kiffin's headed elsewhere.
Lane Kiffin, Matt, is not stopping all this speculation. It's pretty easy to do. We've seen it before. He simply says, I'm staying at Ole Miss. The school announces an extension, even though they've done that a couple of times now, and it's over. And that really is the interesting part. We talked about it yesterday on the Matt Berry podcast. I think we both believe that Lane Kiffin wants to go to Florida. The problem is the playoffs. Could he possibly walk out? Remember in, 2016? Lane Kiffin got the job at Florida Atlantic. He kind of dogged it in a playoff game, and Nick Saban fired him a week before the championship game, costing Saban a championship that year. I don't think Lane Kiffin wants to go through that again.
I think there is a part of it that is legacy. I do disagree with Paul Feinbaum. I think at one point, Florida was the target, the destination. We're in 45 minutes. We're going to go to Gainesville. Zach Abelverdi is going to be here, give us the Florida perspective. I think there's a point in this season when it became clear that Billy Napier was not going to make it, that Kiffin's representatives in Florida were engaging in those conversations, and it became almost apparent that that's what was going to happen. The unexpected part of this was LSU firing Brian Kelly and then engaging themselves in the Kiffin sweepstakes. And then as he's gathered more information from people he trusts, as we've talked about, Nick Saban, Jimmy Sexton, other people in the coaching communities, LSU has sort of emerged as the front runner. And then, of course, with Lane's family being in Baton Rouge on Monday, and as I understand, that visit went exceptionally well. Not that it wouldn't. I mean, it's like a recruiting visit. Anybody ever have a bad time on a recruiting visit? I mean, they roll out the red carpet and all that stuff. So I do think Lane Kiffin is torn, but I do think he has three really good options. But if he does leave Ole Miss, I think that as of today, LSU has surpassed Florida in that pecking order. We'll see what they're saying in Gainesville, which I'd imagine in Gainesville they're probably saying that Florida's still at the front of the line. But we'll have Zach coming up here in about 45 minutes. All right, it's After Further Review. We are powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Sunequip.com, Sunequip.com. Remember, $5,000 off equipment on Black Friday. We're turning Black Friday green over at Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. All right, Musil do Tigers and the Pros next.
After Further Review.
Right about the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark downtown, Renaissance, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet. Final home football game of the year for LSU, meaning Friday, LSU, the football Tigers, will be over at Renaissance Baton Rouge on Bluebonnet. Right near I-10, conveniently located off the interstate, so you get easy access to I-10 to get anywhere in town. Conveniently across the street from the mall in Perkins Row, so really convenient to shopping right there. But, you never even have to leave Renaissance Baton Rouge. Maybe you got family coming in town for the holidays. Tell them about Renaissance. Tons of guest rooms and every amenity. Beautiful workout facility, the whole pool area, although as it gets colder you're probably not going to be swimming. Office areas in there. Tallulah, the restaurant and bar inside of Renaissance Baton Rouge. Beautiful, especially if you're at a high floor room. Beautiful panoramic views of the city. It's right there on Bluebonnet. It's Renaissance Baton Rouge. And if you're hosting an event, they'd love to host you. It's Renaissance Baton Rouge.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She's the only one who really understands what gets me. She thinks my tractor's sexy.
All right, we're wrapping up hour number 2. Riley Ortego sent a text on the show text line. It's a photo of the Got Lit light installer's truck, and it said, "It's disgusting." That I immediately thought of you saying, "The dread of Christmas lights." No, I didn't say the dread of Christmas lights in the spot. I said, and the dread of decorating for Christmas, right? Like, I love Christmas, everything. I just don't like decorating for Christmas. That's why you let Got Lit light installers do it. By the way, they're full. I talked to Derek 2 weeks ago. I always tell you, Got Lit's awesome, but if you think I'm going to wait till after Thanksgiving, you missed it. They do all their estimates, they get their log, and then it's all installs from Halloween through Thanksgiving, and then they're done. So you missed it. But good luck. They're awesome. Got Lit light installers, gotlitlights.com. Okay, Muso. Tigers in the Pro.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, we'll start with an update on Kayshon Boutte. Of course, he's dealing with the hamstring injury. Mike Vrabel, when he met with reporters on Monday, did say that Kayshon Boutte is expected to return to practice on Wednesday. Does sound like from the quote that it will be in a limited capacity, and they'll continue to monitor him throughout the week. He's missed the last 2 games with this hamstring injury as well. So it'll be a big boost. Kayshon is the second leading receiver on the team for New England and the team leader in receiving touchdowns. Of course, the Pats tied for the best record in the NFL right now. We'll see. Keep monitoring throughout the week on Kayshon Boutte. Monday Night Football, the Raiders got destroyed by the Cowboys, but Devin White was the leading tackler for Las Vegas. 10 total stops in the ballgame. Did also have a hit on the quarterback. Of course, let's say, though, the Raiders, they fell 33-16. Couple NBA notes for you from Monday. Trendon Watford, limited role for the Philadelphia 76ers, just 19 minutes, but did gather up 8 points and 4 rebounds and 4 assists. So he was very productive, plus 10 in those 19 minutes. Also, 5 fouls. So that's another reason for those minutes. You see a decrease from what he would normally play. One guy whose minutes have not decreased, that's Naz Reid. 23 more of them off the bench, almost a point a minute, 22 of them.
Should have stayed.
12 rebounds as well. Double-double. 22 and 12 for Naz. 50% from 3. And Timberwolves, they roll along, absolutely thump the Dallas Mavericks a night ago. NBA action tonight for LSU guys. You're looking at Duop Reith, and you would be looking at Cam Thomas, but as we told you a few weeks ago, he's injured right now for the Nets. That's Tigers in the Pros.
Presented by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. ShawbillsTire.com. ShawbillsTire.com. Hey, right now, temperatures are dropping. Well, not today, but temperatures are dropping, and savings are heating up at Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. How about this deal? Now through December the 9th, she's got a few weeks on this one. Get $80 back when you buy a set of 4 select Michelin tires and get free installation, which is $118 value, and use your Shawbills credit card. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to shop Michelin tires and for complete offer details. Shawbills, we keep you rolling. That offer is valid September 24th through December 9th. Void where prohibited, subject to credit approval. You can get all the deets at ShawbillsTire.com. The bottom line, y'all, you want to buy name brand tires at wholesale prices, you go to Shawbills. Hitting the road this holiday season to head for Thanksgiving to see family or for Christmas, whatever it may be, and you need the best tires on the road, maybe an oil change or your tires rotated, go to Shawbills. ShawbillsTire.com. ShawbillsTire.com. Shawbills, we keep you rolling. I do love my show text line. I get to answer a lot of your questions there, interact with you. A lot of people want updates on the coaching search. That's where I'll post them when I have them. Then there's this from Christopher who said, Matt, I have a theory. I believe something went down at halftime of the A&M game that led to the second half collapse and the firing of the AD, the head coach, and the OC. No. Not at all. You just got the crap kicked out of you in the second half by a good team, and you're not very good. So I love my text line. I don't love not smart stuff like that. Although I'm sure Christopher's a good dude. I'm not saying his last name, just out of respect. I don't want to put him out there like that. But yeah, no. That's not a thing. There was this, though. Sam said, Matt, with all the John Summerall talk, would that open the door for Blake Baker to Tulane? Yes. I do. Remember, Blake Baker played at Tulane. And I do believe that had John Summerall left last year, taken a job a year ago, that and there was some of that scuttle, that Baker would have been at or near the top of Tulane's list, and that could happen again. And it certainly feels like Summerall is not going to be at Tulane next year. Now, one of the things out of Auburn, again, all of this is just, I don't mean this to be hearsay. It's conversation I've had. Internally there at Auburn, I know Cam Newton is pushing for Eli Drinkwitz at Auburn. Drinkwitz was Cam's quarterback coach the year they won the national title. So there's a relationship. That doesn't mean that's going to happen. But it seems as though John Summerall would be the front runner at Auburn. And if Lane Kiffin leaves, there's a lot of belief out of Oxford that Ole Miss would be interested in Summerall. So either way, one of those two SEC jobs feels like Summerall could very well slide in there if Ole Miss opens and if Auburn offers him that job. And if Tulane were open, I do think Blake Baker would absolutely be a candidate. But I'm not ruling out Blake Baker as a candidate at LSU either, depending on how the Lane Kiffin stuff materializes. So don't go anywhere as the coaching carousel turns. All right, it's after further review. Sean Salisbury is going to join us for hour number 3 next.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Parish Restoration, parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. Go to the website, parishrestoration.com. If you have mold or think you might, sometimes you got mold in the walls and you don't even know it. In your attic, you don't even know it. I mean, if you start to see water spots on your ceiling, like that didn't just start today. You've probably had like a slow drip, which means you've had water in your attic or in your insulation and stuff for a while, which means you could have mold. I mean, Louisiana is the mold capital of the world because it's wet and humid here. That's a breeding ground for mold. So if you have mold or think you might, call Parish Restoration. Go to parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. Fill out the form on the homepage. They'll be in touch with you. They'll give you an estimate. But it's not just mold. It's really any type of remediation or sanitization. If you have odor, if you have maybe an illness going through your home or your office, you want to knock it out, down to the spores, Parish Restoration can help. Go to parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com.